Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dogman Sasquatch Oklahoma Encounters. I'm your host, Lance Hightower, along with my brothers Bill and Lane, and we have another great episode occurring just outside of Tulsa. Now, this occurred some years ago, but I think you'll find the episode with John very, very intriguing and quite frightening, at least for the other three people that were with him. Before we get going, as promised, I'm going to skip around here, though. I'm going to recognize some of our subscribers, and I'm going to skip around from some of the people that subscribed early on to the show when we started, kind of midway in between, and here at the very last. So I'm going to recognize Brandon Culley, Paula Wagner, Random Kung Fu, Donald Brown, and correct me here, I apologize, ISB 52KY. And we're going to recognize, let's choose this one here. Let's go with Arliss Sullivan, Brenda Stewart, Clint Garrett, Calvin Hughes, Nate Johnson, Christine 1921 Murphy, Vengeance Factor, I kind of like that name, Jen L, Nice Wibana, I apologize again for the pronunciation. Mungo 658, Jeff Gogo, Aaron Elliott, Jesse B, Sean Sauls, Stone Moss, Wendy McGee. And here just recently we have Gerard Berry, Red Green Wig, Zeke Peters, Little O Me, Donnie Bennett, TX Cowboy, Mark Jones, Charles V, Sharpie 1277, Steve Sran, Andy Bruce, Shift Happens, I had to say that correctly, Shift Happens, Preed 34, and Brian Geist. Guys, thanks so much. Without you, we would not have a show, and we want this to feel like it's your show here for the Okies out there. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode. We're going to have a new co-host as well here soon. We decided that as brothers collectively, since many of you have commented just having a great time listening to Wiley Dave Fritz, we're going to have him as one of our co-hosts, and he graciously accepted. So we're looking forward to that. Not only are we going to do some investigations with him across the state and possibly outside the state, but we're going to have him here at the studio here questioning and interviewing folks that call in. So we hope you're enjoying that. We're getting ready with our first co-hosting episode with Dave here soon. So I want you to enjoy this episode with John, again, that occurred outside of Tulsa. This is east of Tulsa near the Verdigris River. I think you'll find his story quite hair-raising, to say the least. If you would, just tell us whatever you want about yourself and just kind of go right into the story, what happened some time back, John.
Yeah, I'm a welder, avid outdoorsman, hunt and fish all year long. And me and a group of friends, late one night around, I'd say 1:30 in the morning, there's four of us total, decided we'd go eat some IHOP in Tulsa. He lived out east of Tulsa by the Verdigris River. And as we were pulling up to the street near the river, turning onto some pavement, we had something walk out across the road in front of us. And me being me, I didn't know what to think. I thought I was crazy and losing my mind. So it was on the other side of the intersection. I was making a left-hand turn to go into Tulsa. And as I made, instead of making the turn, I drove straight across. And when I did, the inside of the cab lit up. Everybody started hollering. One girl tried to crawl underneath the back seat of a Jeep. I was in a Jeep, a soft top Jeep with the top down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then girl in the back seat tried to crawl underneath the passenger seat. It was in tears. My buddy Brad was standing on the back seat trying to zip up a soft cover from the inside of the Jeep.
Wow.
And,
that's nuts.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It shook him up.
Yeah, it did. Me being a hunter, I all my life I've learned to mark things. You know, when you shoot a quail or a pheasant or a duck or a deer, whatever you shoot, you tend to mark things. That way you know where you can find it after you shoot it.
Right.
So, that gravel road just happened to have a big rock. And when it put its foot down, I noticed the rock was gone, and I knew it was stepped right behind that rock, or right in front of that rock. I marked it with that big rock, and I intended on driving over there to take a look and see. Because I'm not a believer, so I had to have hard proof evidence.
Right.
And as soon as them front tires hit that gravel, that's when everybody just started screaming and carrying on. My buddy Brad's yelling at me to stop. And
Wow.
don't do it. And the little girl I was dating at the time, she was in tears, telling me if I ever cared about her, I wouldn't drive any further. And then, what did I see? Sasquatch, I believe.
So what did it look like?
It's the only explanation I have for it. What did it look like? It looked like, it was at least 8 foot. I know that, 8'6". It could have walked over to that soft top Jeep and just put its hands on the rails, on the roll cage of it, and looked over and leaned over inside it. It was that tall.
Wow.
And it looked like an ape. I mean, it looked a lot like an ape.
How close was it to the front of your Jeep?
I had my brights on. It was early in the morning, so it could have been more than, well, I'd say 40 yards maybe.
Oh.
It was well lit up enough to where I could see his face, like without a doubt, facial features.
So you could see the eye shine. You could see the face. What color?
I didn't see the eye shine. I could see the expression.
Oh, really? What did the expression look like?
Just like it looked at me like, yeah, what are you going to do? It showed no fear at all, no concern whatsoever. Just a look at me as it stepped across the road. They took 2 steps to get across an old dirt road down there by the verdigris. It took 1 step was in the pea gravel on the right side by the big rock. 1 step hit mid, somewhere towards the middle of the road. The next step hit in the pea gravel on the other side of the road. It walked up to a 5-strand barbed wire fence, put its hands on the top of it like we would a little kid's gate, like a little toddler's gate, and stepped over a 5-strand barbed wire fence.
Wow.
That's amazing.
What color would you say?
I would say more of a grayish black color. It definitely wasn't brown. More so gray than it was anything. Gray, black. That's the only variation I could find in Bigfoot and whatever it was I've seen.
Okay.
There wasn't a stitch of brown on it.
Okay. And it had. Do you remember which direction it was traveling? I mean, was it traveling?
Yeah, it was traveling west. I know exactly which direction. It was going west, away from the river. The river was about one of the oxbows off the river was less than I'd say a half mile away from that point. An oxbow that feeds the verdigris.
Did you just see one of these that night? Was there more?
Yeah, just the one. It was a very quiet IHOP breakfast. Nobody wanted to talk. I finally had to break the silence.
So when did anybody, I mean, when this happened, did anybody want to talk about it?
Nobody. As a matter of fact, they made me, when I drove back home, they made me drive about 5 miles out of the way. They didn't want me going back down because they knew I was going to that dirt road and they knew I wanted to look. So.
How fast, hey John, how fast, say when you were coming up, when you're making that left, roughly, were you going fairly fast? I'm just curious because
it's a stop sign.
Okay.
It's a stop sign.
Because so I would have thought that it's not like you just snuck up on it. It would have heard you coming from a ways away. So
yeah, I Yeah, I mean, it had no concern for us whatsoever. It didn't care. The only thing that throws me about it is the fence that it crossed, the 5-strand fence, was a horse. There's a hay pasture that had been pastured down. That guy had a group of horses on it. So, I mean, you're looking at knee-high grass at the most. And after everybody freaked out, she reached down there, slammed her Jeep in the park while it was running. The tires dipped off into the gravel, she reached over, slammed the Jeep in the park. My buddy Brad, he was standing on the back seat. My friend was standing on the back seat. In the back seat of the Jeep, trying to zip up the soft cover from the inside of it. And then the girl he was talking to, she was wadded up in the floorboard trying to wad up underneath the passenger seat.
It's a lot of chaos all at once.
I just wanted to see something, huh?
A lot of chaos all at once.
It was, and I thought I was crazy. Like I didn't even know that everybody else seen it. So I was like, yeah, I must be crazy. I did not just see that.
Tell me this.
As soon as I got on the other side of the road, everybody freaked out.
John, tell me, after seeing this, now, what's your opinion now about Bigfoot existence, and does it change any belief you have in the woods about if anything like this exists now?
Man, what kills me about it is I had the brights on. You're looking at, almost 40, 50 yards max. I could see facial expression. I mean, I could see this thing. Everything went chaotic. She slammed it in the park. Everything went nuts. And she looked at me, with tears in her eyes. So naturally, I stopped. But as I was backing up, you got to remember, I'm across this road, and I got 2 tires on this dirt road now, and the pavement's behind me. And there's nothing but hay pasture on the left-hand side where he's going west.
Mm-hmm.
I kick it back, and I shine that field. And it's a hill. I mean, it's a hill. There's nowhere to hide. I shot in that field, and I did not see. I didn't see nothing in that field. No horses, no nothing. And that's what the whole gist of it is. Like I would have loved to have seen a print. Everybody hadn't freaked out on me.
Yeah. Well,
most of my belief, I don't know. I kind of tend to go with the Indians on the whole story where I don't know.
No.
I don't know. It's crazy.
It's hard to explain. It's not something we're
is.
used to seeing, and especially when you don't expect anything like that so early in the morning. You see that, like you said, everybody's yelling. You're trying to process all this information. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it is. It was definitely different. I don't know. There was no saying that the Indians had that, you could only see him if you let you see him, and he didn't walk in this world or the next. And that's the only, because I know a little bit, I looked into it a little bit after the encounter. And, had I seen it, walking up the edge of that field, had I seen a print, I'd be a firm and cold-hearted, just to the point believer, but it's still, I know what I've seen. If you held a gun to me and told me, what did you see, I'm going to tell you Bigfoot. But to tell you the daggum truth, it kind of looked like the Jack Lynx, but not as long, elongated. The face wasn't near as long as that, and it didn't have that much hair on it. It wasn't quite that much hair on it.
So when you say Jack
Lynx, it didn't have a strong beak or nothing of that, none of that nature. It had a more rounded face than the Jack Lynx, but the facial features were definitely eerily similar, like the extra skin, the wrinkles, and all that fun stuff. It sounds crazy, but the first time I seen that Jack Lynx commercial, it kind of creeped me out.
Yeah, if some of the people in the audience don't know, the Jack Lynx Sasquatch that advertises the Slim Jims, I think, or is that a different brand?
Some beef jerky.
Beef jerky. Yeah, that one, it is pretty realistic compared to, I've heard that on one occasion more than once, people describing it as the Jack Lynx Bigfoot. So
It looked a lot like it, but like I said, the face wasn't quite as elongated as that. The wrinkles are on point, and there wasn't quite that much hair around it. Didn't have the big, strong widow's peak, and the tip of his head didn't seem so mountaintop-ish.
Did you have any Baja lights on that Jeep that you flipped on, or was it just the headlights?
No, I had Baja lights and I had KC lights on it.
Oh, so you could see a lot of the detail then.
I could see where he had hair and where he didn't.
Okay, gotcha.
Wow, that's amazing.
How long ago did this take place here, John? How long ago?
Oh, you're looking at 14 years, 13 years ago.
And what was the season again? Was this summer, did you say?
It was summer.
Summer.
It was summer.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, it was summer.
Have you communicated at all with any of those folks since then? And if so, do you ever talk about it?
I still talk to the guy. He's still a good buddy of mine, and he don't want to talk about it. Anytime I bring it up, he just changes the subject or just flat out says, "Hey, man, I don't want to talk about it."
Just because it shook him up? I mean, is that why?
Yeah. I'm assuming that's why. You know, he'll kind of. He don't even make. Like, I'll kind of tease about it. He completely goes the other direction. Like, he'll ignore it and bring up something else.
But for you, retelling the story, I remember you told me this before, this story. I mean, it brings up some emotions, right? I mean, it's...
It's creepy, I can tell you that. It's weird. Like, I never, like, I started carrying a flashlight around when I hunt. And I kept a 9mm in my, at least a 9 or 40.
Right.
Somewhere on me at all times. This guy creeped me out a little bit, man. It's weird.
Have you been back on that place since then?
I drove by that spot. I still drive by it. There's a good boat slip out that way. But it doesn't look nothing the same. I mean, it's grown. There's houses everywhere now. It's not like it used to be.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm curious, have you deer hunted out there in that area before?
Yeah. I deer hunted as a crow flies about 3 miles from that particular place.
Just out of curiosity, the amount of deer in that area, would you say really high or not necessarily?
Yeah, I'd say there's ample deer in that area. There's a golf course not too terribly far from it. So, I mean, there's plenty to eat down there.
Right.
I mean, for anything.
And that's what I was kind of alluding to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's plenty to sustain. They got pictures of black bears down there, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, have you, John, told anyone else this encounter of yours? And if so, what did they say?
Just a couple, and I get a lot of strange looks.
Was it your family or was it friends?
Family, and I think a handful of friends, maybe 5 or 6 friends.
What does your family think? What did they think when you told them this story?
Oh man, mixed. It's a lot of mixed. I got some that are kind of just whatever, and then I've got some that are more reasonable that kind of listen. I don't shoot the breeze, so I don't play around, so I don't know. It's different.
Yeah.
It's just something weird to experience because how do you tell somebody this? It's like,
right.
Yeah, it's definitely not an opener on a conversation.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, there's not. Yeah, who do you tell? I mean, you really can't.
Yeah.
You why would you call law enforcement? There's no crime committed, and you call the game department. What it's gone. What are they going to do? So there's really nowhere to go for a lot of folks, and so that's why there's a lot of shows like ours that want to talk to people about what they saw, so we can document that these are credible people as yourself that grew up around these parts. You know the woods. You know what things should be out there, and when something comes across your path that doesn't make sense on what you're familiar with, you scratch your head. You're like, what is this? What is it doing out here?
Yep.
I've never seen anything like this. And obviously, with the reaction of your friends, that kind of said it all right there.
Yeah. I would love to hear exactly what everybody's thoughts were that were in that Jeep today. Like, I would love to hear how they perceived it, how everything went down. Like Brad won't even talk to me about it. So, I mean, and I keep saying Brad, I don't know if y'all can edit that, or my buddy, he won't even talk to me about it. But it's crazy. It really is. It's different.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, I can relate. It's mystifying to oneself, especially, again, because your brain's working at warp speed trying to figure out what you're looking at, and
just trying to process it. Yeah,
exactly.
And I wanted to go look at the print like so bad I couldn't stand it, and everybody else was completely freaked out. But it wasn't like the thing snarled at us or gave us a bad look. It just kind of looked like, okay, whatever. It kept going. It wasn't like I didn't feel threatened, and I knew where he put his foot down at. I knew I'd seen it. And I'm like, I know that there's a little cul-de-sac there, a little ditch, and there's a big open bean field, and there's a tree line that comes up to that cul-de-sac, and it came on right on the other side of the tree line, right on the other side of the cul-de-sac. And, I mean, I had it marked. I wanted to go to the print. But it is what it is, so I guess it all kind of worked out the way it needed to.
Yeah.
Now, John, did you say that when it came out of that tree line, was it on the north side of that tree line?
Yeah, it was on the north side. I say tree line, it was like a little brush, there were big trees in it on further to the east, but it was thin by the time it got to the road.
Yeah. Little finger of woods coming right up to the road, I think you've said before. Something.
With a cul-de-sac. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a bean field on each side of it, just a cut bean field, obviously, in the summertime. It was
interesting.
Bare dirt. So, I mean, there was nothing to hide.
That's amazing.
And like I said, it didn't seem concerned at all. It looked right at us. When the middle foot hit the middle of the road, or when the foot hit the middle of the road, it looked right over at the Jeep, and I mean, it was like we weren't even there. And took another step, walked up to the fence, and put its hands on it, and stepped over it. Never missed a stride.
Was it looking at you all the while, or just kind of glanced over its shoulder and?
No, it just looked over its shoulder one time when I put it in the center of the road. Like, what are you gonna do? And then just kept right on about his business.
Passive look, yeah.
So did
super passive, like almost looking through us, like
right.
Who are you?
Well, almost as if like, I've seen Jeeps like this. Yeah, you guys are not going to do much. I'll go about my way, and you go about your way.
Exactly.
So when did everybody finally settle down a little bit in the Jeep? As soon as you got back onto the blacktop, or?
No. I think when it was all said and done, my buddy had almost the passenger side of the Jeep zipped.
Wow.
It was all said and done. And then the girl on the floorboard was wilted. She was bawling.
Was
and
that
the girl that was sitting next to me? She was in tears, and it was just a crazy experience. It was weird.
Wow. So
it was intense. Like, it was super intense. I just thought, okay, that's Bigfoot. Did I just see that?
Right.
And that's when I started to cross the intersection. I guess everybody else seen it too. So.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you don't expect, obviously, let alone seeing this anywhere, but let alone, it's, without giving a lot of the details, that's not too far from Tulsa.
It's not horribly far from Tulsa.
No.
It's not.
Of course, Tulsa is kind of a big little city. I mean, you got all the amenities of a any big metro area, but within a few minutes in either direction, you can be in the country.
Yeah, absolutely, and not just country, but boondock country.
Boondock, exactly. You got a lot of waterways around the state, so.
Yeah, and that verdigris it's got lots of little fingers and oxbows and dirt roads all around it.
Yep,
I've been on a lot of them.
Exactly.
Hey, John, have you ever heard of any other encounters friends or family may have had regarding possible Bigfoot sightings?
Man, I haven't. And I haven't really told all of the family either.
Right.
Just portions of the family.
Sure.
And then, nobody else has seen it. Like, as far as I know, that's the only sighting around this area.
Right.
Which, again, you can't ever tell because nobody will talk about it anyway, even if they had.
Sure.
So, on this side of the verdigris, as far as I haven't had any.
I see.
Elaine, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask just a question, you and Bill, just out of curiosity, what do you guys think as far as on a scientific level? Would you guys think that this could be a travel pattern where they run or they have patterns of movement to rural type farm areas, moving from from a water source to a food source? What do you think about that?
Well, if I know we're avid listeners to other shows as well, and I know you spend a lot of time studying this online, and as well as both of us. But like anything in the wild, there's patterns of movement. There's patterns of movement based on food sources, the time of year, possibly food sources near waterways. We've talked about that many times. So, being that this Bigfoot, the Sasquatch that John saw heading from, it sounded like east to west, that it was coming out of this thick timber, that may have been a regular route this time of the year for him, and maybe it was a nightly route for this thing. I don't know what sex it was. John didn't, but we're just assuming it was a male right now. And I think I took you out there, and now there's homes scattered out there. It's not heavy populated, but there are some homes scattered on the north side and on the south side. There's a nice boat ramp down there, like John said, near an area close by. But I think there's regular patterns of route, whether it be for safety purposes, food purposes, migration purposes, that they use frequently. I really do. Become unsafe for them, or that humans start infiltrating closer to these areas where they're at. I think they'll keep the same patterns until roads are built and more homes are built. For a while, I'm sure they won't like it, and you'll see them, and then they'll figure out another route pattern, and then they'll vanish. They're still around, but they'll just take detours around to try and get into deeper woods and get away from human contact, so to speak. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I was going to say that it makes sense. Of course, we hear Bigfoot's mostly nocturnal, and a lot of animals are that way. So you've got the water routes there that tend to have animals that congregate around water, of course, and so the apex predators follow animals that's lower on the food chains. So I would think that, Bigfoot would hunt certain areas, have hunting grounds separate from their living grounds, so to speak, and then travel back and forth between that.
Well, that area is thick. That area, John's right. That area, even with the homes in that area, we've been down that boat ramp, and it's woolly. That's I took Lane down there. It was a few weeks back, I think. And John's, that's a woolly place. You get the creeps back there, And
yeah, it's super thick back in there along the river.
Yeah, and it is. It's extremely thick to the point where you almost need a machete to get through that stuff. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And so you get back there in the dark. You'll it doesn't surprise me. You know, if I was going to get away from people, and I didn't want a lot of traffic, human traffic, and the possibility of some food sources and water sources, I'd choose that area.
Oh, it's perfect for that.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of open ground you can cover at night through those fields. All you have to do is cross over a few fences, you know, and then you can get to, who knows, chickens, gardens out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably some nut trees out there, and different times of the year there's probably some apple trees.
The hogs running the river also.
Yeah, hogs running the river. I mean, so that's, who knows how long they've been out there, but it's that way across the country. There's thousands of places just like this. So in many respects, John, do you consider yourself, and I know this sounds strange, do you consider yourself lucky or fortunate you saw this Bigfoot?
I don't know. I guess fortunate. I mean, it's something I've seen. So I mean, me being an outdoorsman, I feel fortunate about it. Like, I would have loved to got more hardcore evidence. I'd love to got a print. I would have loved to check out the fence where he crossed just to make sure he didn't hang nothing up in it. And you know, I would have loved to got some of that, but it's just kind of, it happened so fast, and I had people with me that I don't know, it obviously scared to death.
Yeah, right.
I understand.
They weren't the right group to go out and investigate right after that.
Yeah, no, they made me drive 5 miles out of the way to get back home. They wouldn't even let me back on that same street. They're like, no, we know you. You're not going. If you even attempt to go down that, we're pulling over, and somebody else is going to drive. I was like,
they saw the wheel spinning in your head to try to investigate it right there.
I wanted to immediately, and I kicked the lights across that field looking for it after it crossed the fence, and that's what throws me for a loop. Is I don't understand how he got out of that field so quickly.
Well, you're
talking a matter of 10 to 15 seconds, and this is a big open field, and I had every light on that Jeep. So I mean,
well,
it was strange. That's what threw me.
We like the way you think, first of all, because that's our personality. We want to check it out immediately. But secondly,
yes,
there's a couple things. I mean, even though he was kind of strolling, and his stride sounds extremely long here based on the height and his gait stride, there's two things. He can cover a lot of ground and kick it to high gear in a matter of seconds and be gone. Or secondly, if you had some, you said soybean or rye out there knee deep on the average size human, in many cases it's still tall enough for something to lay down flat, as big as it is.
Yeah.
These creatures are masters of their environment. They can blend in just feet away and you never see them. So it could have still been out there, but you just did not see it because it was laying low.
Yeah, it very well could have.
Or
it's crazy. There's not a pecan, but there's a pine thicket over there. It's that's the direction it was heading.
Oh yeah, I know. I know which one you're talking about now. Yep.
Yeah, that's where it was going. It looked like it was going to edge that hill, top the hill.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to edge it and heading straight towards that pecan, that pine grove back there. And then from there, there's 3 or 4 different pieces of property back in there that I've been on and hunted on, and you would never. Nobody's going to find nothing over there if they ain't looking. I mean, even if they're looking, they're going to have a horrible time trying to find anything.
Because it's
I've been
just
on a lot of that ground over there, and part of it's swamp, part of it ain't, and part of it's dry, and it's got pecan, and it's got all kinds of stuff over there. If something wanted to get hid, you'd never find it.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
Going back to that, I think that the diversity in the ecosystem regarding food sources is so prevalent back there, especially around that water system. I know that Lance had taken me out there, and Bill had talked about it too with me. John, regarding that area where you had that sighting, and it's just really neat area, and heavily wooded and very thick. And it's just it was just an absolute pleasure to actually, honestly, to go out there and just to look at that area. And I, even though I wasn't there with you, I've had an encounter myself, so I can kind of visualize something coming out and looking and then taking off at a great speed.
Yep. But if you've been out there, you know where that cul-de-sac is in that road. I remember if that tree line still comes up there and kind of gets close to it or not. But that's from that stop sign to that cul-de-sac is a distance. I'm guessing about 40 yards, probably. Like I said, 50 at the most.
Right.
From that stop sign to that, where that dirt road's at to that cul-de-sac. That's where it was at.
Right.
Right on the north side of the cul-de-sac.
Exactly.
The tin horn.
Well, I can't think of anything else at this point in time. I mean, as far as any of the details, did you smell anything after that linger? I mean, that was quite a ways away, so you probably didn't. Did it make any vocalizations or anything?
No, it had no concern with anything around it or near it. It was on its way somewhere and had that destination on its mind, and we just happened to see it, and it didn't care. It had no worries whatsoever. I got the whatever look is what I would call it. Whatever, and just get right on about his business.
And you saw it. And you saw it come to the fence and just push the barbed wire down, and then just easily, like it was a little toddler fence, just swing.
Yeah.
It's
just like we would a toddler fence is the perfect example.
And it's
just like a toddler did. It just took about a half a second for us to put our hands down there and step over it, and that's about it. And this is a 5-strand barbed wire fence. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with those fences, but they aren't short.
No, they're up there.
Very fun to cross.
Right.
Yeah, they're up there. They're tall.
So it swung its leg down, it pushed, and then it probably didn't even swing its leg. It probably just kind of stepped over it. I mean, I don't know.
It just kind of stepped over it.
Wow.
It just kind of pushed it down just a little bit and kind of stepped over it. Barely broke stride.
Wow.
Barely broke stride as it was going.
Wow.
So, it was different.
Yeah.
It's just been a pleasure to speak with you, John, tonight. And like I said, I've been to that area, and it's extremely diverse. And
there's plenty
really
going
cool,
on.
neat area. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, there could be family units per se in those rural type areas, and obviously they have patterns of movement. So
everything has a pattern.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's true. Well, I guess we're just going to close out here. Just stay on the line with us, if you would, John, as we kind of end this episode here. So from me, I thank you so much for being on and taking the time. I know everybody's busy, and hopefully you got your boat loaded okay, or unloaded, one of the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know we've been trying to connect. So thanks again, buddy. I really, really appreciate it here. And
not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, thanks a lot, John, and making me hungry for some beef jerky right now. So.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It was creepy.
but really, I appreciate it, and I know we've talked about this story, and really glad you were able to come on and share it with us and our viewers, and it's just a great story. So thanks again, and we'll be talking soon.
Not a problem.
All right, buddy. Well, hang on just a second, and we'll end this episode. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening again. And if you've had an encounter, you can call our toll-free number anytime at 1-866-306-8085.